You have almost certainly done it. Pressed your mouth against another person's mouth on purpose and enjoyed it. And nobody ever had to explain it to you. Nobody sat you down and taught you the technique. It just seemed like the most natural, obvious thing two people who love each other could possibly do. But stop, right there, and actually look at what you are doing. You are taking the hole you put food into, the hole that is home to your own private jungle of bacteria, and you are pressing it, wet and open, against the same hole on somebody else's face. You are swapping spit. You are trading, in a single 10-second kiss, tens of millions of living bacteria with another human being. Written down like that, in plain words, it sounds like the strangest and least hygienic thing a species could possibly invent as a sign of affection. And yet it feels wonderful. So here's a question almost nobody ever stops to ask. When did humans start kissing, and why on earth do we do it? And I promise you, the answer is far stranger than you think, because the first thing to understand is the fact that breaks the whole illusion. Kissing is not natural, or at least, it is nowhere near as universal as you have been led to believe. We all quietly assume that kissing is simply part of being human, like laughing or crying, something every person in every place has always done. It is not. When researchers went out and actually surveyed cultures around the world, looking specifically for romantic mouth-to-mouth kissing, they found something that stunned a lot of people. Only around half of the societies they examined did it at all. Roughly half. In the rest, romantic kissing was simply not a thing. It was not part of courtship. It was not part of marriage. It did not turn up in their art or their songs or their stories. And it gets better. In some of those cultures, when outsiders showed them kissing or tried to describe it, the reaction was not curiosity. It was revulsion. Genuine disgust. They found the idea of pressing your mouth onto someone else's mouth, of deliberately mixing saliva, frankly repellent. And honestly, read that description from a minute ago again, and tell me they are wrong. Meanwhile, those same peoples had their own intimacy, and it was often beautiful. There are cultures who greet a loved one by pressing noses together and breathing in. Others lean in and sniff deeply at the beloved's cheek, hair, and neck, taking in their scent as the deepest sign of closeness. Others rub cheeks or touch foreheads or press their whole faces together. Their version of the most intimate human moment is not worse than yours. It is just different. And it means the thing you think of as the single most instinctive expression of love on earth is, to a huge slice of humanity, an oddity at best and a filthy habit at worst. And if you need proof that the kiss is something we pick up rather than something we are born knowing, think back to your own first one. Almost nobody's first kiss is smooth. It is clumsy. It is a collision. Teeth clack. Noses get in the way. Nobody knows where to put their hands or which way to lean or how long is too long, and afterwards you replay every second of it wondering whether you did it wrong. And then you get better, because you practice, and because you watch, and because you copy. Children in kissing cultures see kissing everywhere. In the doorway when a parent leaves, on television, in every love story ever told. They absorb the entire grammar of it years before they ever try it. That is not instinct switching on, like a baby's first laugh. That is a skill being learned. Which is exactly what you would expect from a behavior that half the world never picked up at all. So if kissing is not simply hardwired into every one of us, then it is not something we have always done everywhere. It is something that started. Somewhere. Somehow. Which means there was a time before the kiss. And someone, somewhere, was the first. So how far back can we actually trace it? For a long time, the popular story was tidy. Kissing was invented in one place, in ancient India, around 3,500 years ago, and slowly spread across the world from there, carried along trade routes and by marching armies. It is a lovely, neat story. It is probably wrong. Because when researchers went digging through the very oldest writing humanity ever produced, They found the kiss already sitting there, already completely ordinary, in more than one place at once. In the clay tablets of ancient Mesopotamia, pressed with little wedge-shaped marks thousands of years ago, kissing is simply present. It turns up in texts about love and desire, in myths about gods, in the everyday business of relationships and marriage, from around 4,500 years ago. Not introduced as something new, not described as exotic. Just there, mentioned in passing, the way you might mention a handshake. And it appears in the early records of ancient Egypt and in the ancient literature of India, spread across an enormous area at a very early date. Which points to something important. The kiss was not one clever invention that traveled the world. It was already an old, widespread human behavior by the time anybody got around to writing anything down at all. Those earliest records are not the birth of the kiss. They are just the first time somebody happened to scratch it onto a rock. And those ancient records are not shy about it either. The Mesopotamians clearly distinguished between the friendly, respectful sort of kiss and the passionate sort that got people into trouble. Later, the Romans were so committed to kissing that they had entirely different words for different kisses. One for the polite peck of greeting or duty, one for the warm kiss of affection between people who cared for each other, and one for the deep, passionate, get-a-room variety. That is a civilization that has thought hard about kissing. And they use them constantly. Kissing hello, kissing goodbye, kissing hands, kissing the ring of the powerful as a mark of submission, until a Roman could probably read your entire social standing from exactly how and where you were allowed to kiss them. But all of that is recent. Writing is only a few thousand years old, and our story runs back far, far deeper than that. So to find where the kiss really comes from, we have to leave the tablets behind and look at two ideas that might explain the whole thing. Here is the first, and it is the one that will change how you see every kiss you have ever had. It may have started with food. Picture an ancient mother. She has a baby just old enough to need more than milk, but with no teeth and no hope of chewing a scrap of tough meat or a fibrous root. There are no blenders. There is no baby food. There is no soft mush waiting in a jar. So she does the only thing she can do. She chews the food herself, grinding it into a warm, soft paste. And then she leans in, presses her lips against her baby's lips, and passes it straight into its mouth. This is called kiss feeding. And it is not some strange theory dreamed up in a laboratory. It is a real, documented behavior, practiced by mothers in many cultures all over the world, and almost certainly for an enormous stretch of our history. For a very long time, this was simply how you got solid food into an infant that could not chew. Now think about what that means. For hundreds of thousands of years, the very first association a human being ever formed, right at the very beginning of life, was this. Lips pressed against my lips means safety. It means food. It means warmth. It means I am being held and fed and kept alive by the person who loves me most in all the world. That is a bond wired in before memory, before language, before you knew your own name. And the idea is that the gesture simply never left us. It grew up alongside us. What began as feeding became comfort, and comfort became affection, and affection, in the end, became the kiss. Every romantic kiss you have ever had might be a distant echo of your mother feeding you. And here is the second idea, and it is every bit as good. Kissing might be a test. Because getting your face that close to another person's face is an extraordinary way to gather information about them, and a surprising amount of that information arrives through your nose. At kissing distance, you are inhaling their scent, the chemistry of their skin, their breath, the state of their health. Some researchers think this is the real hidden function of the whole business. A close-range biological inspection, wearing the disguise of a romantic gesture. Are they well? Are they clean? Do they smell right to me? There is even research suggesting we are drawn to the scent of people whose immune systems are different from our own, which would, in theory, hand any children a broader defense against disease. You are aware of none of this. You simply know whether it feels right or whether it feels wrong. and think how many relationships have quietly died because of a first kiss that just felt off, and neither person could ever explain why. That may be a very old alarm system, going off in a language your conscious mind never learned. And there is a strange little fingerprint on this behavior that hints at how deep it runs. When people kiss, they do not tilt their heads at random. Study after study finds that around 2/3 of us tilt our heads to the right. Not because anyone taught us, not because it is more comfortable, but as an unconscious bias that may trace all the way back to the way we turned our heads as infants, or even in the womb. There is a small, silent, inherited pattern hiding inside the most romantic thing you do. And this is where you can stop feeling quite so special about all of it, because we are not the only ones who do this. Our closest relatives kiss, too. Bonobos, the great apes who share nearly all of our DNA, kiss enthusiastically. Not just quick pecks of greeting, but long, open-mouthed, tongue-involved kisses that would make a person blush. They do it to make up after a fight, to calm one another down, to strengthen a friendship, to diffuse tension before a meal. Chimpanzees kiss and mouth each other in reconciliation as well, pressing their lips to a rival after a scrap, patching the group back together, which shoves the roots of this behavior way, way back, past the clay tablets, past the pyramids, past our own species entirely, and down into the deep shared past we have with the other apes. The kiss may be far, far older than humanity itself. Now let's talk about the part that should genuinely disturb you. Because kissing is not free. It has a cost, and that cost is disease. Your mouth is a jungle. It is home to hundreds of species of bacteria, an entire teeming ecosystem living on your teeth and your tongue and your gums. And when you kiss someone properly, you are not simply exchanging affection. You are exchanging that entire ecosystem. Researchers have actually measured this, and a single deep 10-second kiss can transfer something on the order of 80 million bacteria from one mouth into another. Couples who kiss often end up with mouth communities that start to resemble each other, as if the two jungles are slowly merging into one. Most of that is harmless. Some of it is very much not. The kiss is a superb delivery system for illness. There is a virus carried by an enormous share of every human population on Earth that causes those blistering sores around the mouth, and it has ridden human affection across the entire planet for thousands of years. There is the virus behind the illness we literally nicknamed the kissing disease, which travels happily in saliva and flattens teenagers for weeks. Every cold, every flu, every mouth-borne infection has used our love of kissing as a private motorway. And ancient people, with no concept of germs whatsoever, still spotted the pattern. That mouth contact and outbreaks of horrible facial sores seem to travel in company. There is a story from ancient Rome of an emperor so alarmed by an outbreak of a disfiguring facial disease, spreading through all that constant social kissing that he tried to ban kissing outright, at least in official life, for a time. They had no idea what they were fighting, but they could see the kiss carrying it. So kissing is a gamble, and it always has been. You are, quite literally, risking infection for a moment of closeness, which raises the obvious question. Why on earth do we keep doing it? Because it feels incredible. And that is not an accident either. Your lips are one of the most densely wired patches of skin on your entire body, crowded with nerve endings, and they take up a startlingly large territory on the brain's internal map of the body, wildly out of proportion to their actual size. Your lips have a bigger presence in your brain than your entire back does, which means a kiss is not a small signal. It is a flood. It lights up the reward system. It releases the chemistry of pleasure and of bonding, the same machinery that runs attachment and trust and touch, and it turns down the hormones of stress. A good kiss measurably calms you and glues you to another person. Evolution did not stumble into that by accident. It built a body willing to take the disease risk because the bonding was worth more. And you can feel the whole machine switch on in order in about 2 seconds. First the approach, And the strange little negotiation of it. The eyes close almost always, because the brain is about to hand the job over to touch and smell and wants the pictures out of the way. The head tilts to the right without asking you. Then contact, and a wave of signal floods up from the lips into the brain, far more than the size of the skin involved should ever justify. The heart speeds up. The pupils widen. Blood moves to the skin. Stress chemistry drops away and the bonding chemistry climbs, and the sense of the room quietly disappears until there is nothing in the world but a very small patch of another person. For those few seconds, an animal that spends its whole life scanning for danger switches its guard off completely, on purpose, and lets another creature right up against its face. That is what a kiss actually is. The deepest possible statement of trust, disguised as something soft. And that trust is not just for the beginning of love. It is what keeps it running. When researchers look at long-term couples, the amount of kissing turns out to track how happy the relationship is, in some studies more closely than how often the couple has sex. The kiss is not only the spark, it is the maintenance. It is the small, daily, unglamorous act that keeps saying over and over across years, still you, still safe, still here. Ancient couples, ancient parents, ancient friends, in every culture that used the kiss, were running exactly the same quiet program. And once the kiss existed, humans did what humans always do with anything powerful. We loaded it with meaning. The kiss stopped being only a physical act and became a piece of social technology. A kiss became a promise, sealing an agreement between families or nations. It became a mark of submission, pressed to the hand or the ring of the powerful. It became a greeting, a blessing, a farewell, a rite of peace, a way of saying thank you, and I forgive you, and I am yours. It became sacred, and it became the ultimate betrayal. One of the most famous stories in all of Western culture turns on a kiss used to mark a man out for death. We took a gesture that may have begun with a mother chewing food for her baby, and we made it carry love, power, worship, grief, and treachery. And here is the last twist, the one happening right now in your own lifetime. The kiss is still spreading. Remember that half of humanity that never took it up? That number has been falling, and falling fast, and not because of any argument or any evidence. Because of screens. For a century, the same gesture has been beamed into every corner of the planet. The hero and the heroine, the swelling music, the slow lean, the kiss. Film after film, show after show, song after song, all quietly teaching the same lesson to billions of people who never grew up with it, that this is what love looks like when it is real. And it works. In places where a grandmother would have been baffled or repulsed by the idea. Young couples now kiss, because that is what love does in every story they have ever watched. We are, right now, watching one culture's habit turn itself into a global instinct, in fast forward, in a handful of generations. And that is the proof of everything we have said. Nobody has to teach you to laugh, or to cry, or to yawn. But the kiss has to be taught. It is being taught, at this very moment, to the whole world at once. So, come back now, to the last time you kissed somebody you love. Two people, pressing their mouths together, breathing each other in, trading 80 million bacteria, and feeling for a moment a little less alone in the world. It is not universal. Something like half of humanity got along perfectly well without ever doing it, and thought the whole idea was faintly revolting. It is not clean. It is not safe. It carried plagues of sores across whole continents, and it is almost certainly not even ours to begin with, but a habit we share with apes who were kissing and making up long before anything you would call a human ever walked the earth. And yet, in every culture that does it, it says, without a single word, the same impossible thing. You are safe with me, and I choose you, and I will come this close. Maybe your mother fed you exactly that way before you could speak. Maybe your ancestors used it to sniff out a mate, or to end a fight, or to seal a promise nobody could break. And maybe the next time you do it, you will feel, just for a second, how staggeringly old, and how strange, and how absurdly human that little gesture really is. Thanks for watching. If you love the huge, hidden stories buried inside the most ordinary parts of being human, subscribe and stick around. Because next time, we are digging into another strange, forgotten corner of the world of ancient humans.